only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to 612 Vikings. I am Dustin alongside Drew, and we are nearing training camp in about 48 hours. So, it's on Saturday. Today's Thursday. By the time you guys listen to this, it might be Friday. But anyway, Drew, how are we feeling? It's training camp in a couple days, and I think we're super excited.
Yeah, I think we're all super excited. I think practice has exceeded expectations from the sounds of it, compared to some of these other teams within the division of players getting kicked out of two different teams in our division, which is kind of funny. But
crazy.
One got kicked out, and then the other one they had to calm it down because it started becoming like Adam Sandler Longest Yard movie where like the convicts are beating up the guards. I guess it was kind of the thing going on in Detroit. But I didn't mean to name names, but whatever, we all know who it is. But I think we like to play that kind of way. We have a certain style. We're more that with the brains and try to chest this piece up and get ready for the season, and hopefully we can have our franchise quarterback and a really successful season coming up.
That's all that we're hoping for. So first, before we get to everything training camp, the Vikings did come out with I guess their quote unquote uniform or jersey schedule for this upcoming year. Just want to share this with everybody. So as you guys can see on screen for the YouTube audience, if you guys are listening, I'll kind of explain this here. But the Vikings are displaying their two alternate jerseys this year as they started last year. So the Vikings classic uniforms, they are wearing those, the throwbacks, the first home game of the year and the last home game of the year. So the first one is against the Falcons in week 2, Sunday Night Football. And then week 18 versus the Green Bay Packers. So that should be really cool to see. I don't think we've played the Packers in our classic uniforms yet. But next we got the Winter Warrior jerseys or uniforms. Those, I think everybody could have guessed. We are using those on Christmas against the Detroit Lions in week 17. So just kind of thought I'd share that with everybody just so you guys are all in the loop. You guys may or may not have known that. But it should be a fun time for your Minnesota Vikings with some fun jerseys. Speaking of jerseys, too, I want to get this out of the way. The Packers, they released some, I know they're throwbacks, but they're kind of odd, to bring back old school jerseys like that back into the big 2025, where you're using leather helmets as your helmet, and then you got to spray paint it onto like a Schutt F7. I don't know. That's going to look weird. Drew, what do you think of these Packer uniforms?
Yeah, I was actually talking about it with other people regarding it. I kind of view it kind of how I view the whiteout jerseys, how, a couple of teams use it, that's fine. But now when it becomes like a third of the league has whiteout jerseys, it's starting to get repetitive. I see it as like this. I see it as an unoriginal jersey idea of going back, because it is something that the University of Illinois had just used last year. Everyone was raving about it. They're like, oh, this is so cool. And, the Packers are like, yeah, let's do that. And then they did it. So it's, not an original idea, but I don't hate them. I think they're okay. I think it's doing the best with what you're given, because, you look at some of these old school teams like the Packers and the Bears and the Cardinals, it's really hard to make like a classic uniform without people being really upset about it. You look at the Bumblebee jerseys with the Steelers and the Giants Wolverine jerseys, and the Steelers throwbacks now, a lot of people are kind of mixed on. I don't personally despise them, but I don't think they're the best. Yeah. It's really hard to make a good classic jersey like that, where I think this is probably the best that you could have gotten out of it, in my opinion. But
unless you're like the Buccaneers or the Seahawks or the Vikings, where you've kind of had iconic uniforms like that. But with that said, moving on to Vikings training camp. We are getting into the Vikings training camp on Saturday, but we got some notes of what has happened in the past couple days. So Drew, if you want to kick us off with the past couple days.
Yeah, I think the big one that has been kind of going viral on the internet is we got our flip-flopper himself and Colin Cowherd saying, you can see it on my Twitter, I clipped it and I found that on there. So right when the draft season of 2024, Colin Cowherd goes, J.J. McCarthy in New England doesn't work, but if he goes to Minnesota, it works in Minnesota. Now that, since Sam Darnold proved him right, and he had a great year, so if you don't know, he's a huge Sam Darnold stan. Like, that's all he loves and talks about. Vikings kind of give him the Kirk treatment, give him like a 1-year deal, and you're on our terms, not on yours, and they let him walk. He didn't like that, so now he's declaring war on the whole system against the Vikings, and now he's rooting for JJ to fail. So,
do you want me to play the clip?
Yeah, we could play the clip a little bit of what he said, but now he's switching his tune of now JJ's going to suck, and now he's got all these lies against him. So we could play the clip, and then this is the most recent one with what's his name from FS1 as well. From Breakfast.
Here's the thing: big advantage to the Bears.
Yeah, they got a lot better.
J.J. McCarthy, you're going to see it very quickly, is not what people think. Everybody else will be as good as where they land. I think J.J. McCarthy in New England is a bust. I think J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota with that talent and coach, that division, which is light on defense, heavy on scoring, works.
What a little flip-flopper, huh?
Yeah. So, like, you can't say he goes to Minnesota and it works, but now Sam Darnold has a great season, he leaves, and now you want to declare war on the Vikings because they didn't re-sign Sam Darnold. So I just think it's low class, and he was talking about how JJ can't get it done in the fourth quarter and all this, and I did pull up his stats here. So in the fourth quarter in 2023 for the Michigan Wolverines that went undefeated, won the national title, they played 15 games that year. Less than 50% of the times, JJ McCarthy saw the field in the fourth quarter. So we're talking, you can say Michigan cheated or whatever. You could talk about that, but you still can't deny the fact that they still were a very, very good team. So good, in fact, that they are one of the only few teams to beat four or more top 10 opponents. The most within the last 20, 25 years. So some of the people that some of the teams that I have listed here, you had the 2023 Wolverines, but before that, it hadn't been done since the 2019 LSU Tigers with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Then you go back to 2015 Alabama, and that was what like the Clemson-Bama rivalry started going on. Then you go back again to Bama in 2012, then back again to Bama in 2009. So we're talking about a Saban dynasty that had started and sprouted. They're on that level, just beating good teams. And then before that, it was done by the 2008 Gators, who many consider one of the better teams within the last 25 years as well. So you have put yourself on that level, and you're the quarterback of that team. And let's face it, like, it wasn't a team like LSU where you had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire who could really set the precedent of trying to take pressure off of Joe Burrow. Like, you had Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, who kind of was okay. He was a backup, and J.J. McCarthy. Roman Wilson, okay. None of those guys were game changers like a Jefferson or a Chase or a Helaire. None of those guys were drafted in the first round. So the only first rounder on that offense was Colson Loveland and J.J. McCarthy. And you look at Colson Loveland when J.J. McCarthy leaves, he had a very, very big regression, and it showed. So I do think that J.J. was a big, big, big part of that Michigan offense, and the fact that you're going and saying he doesn't perform in the fourth quarter when he's got a passing efficiency of a 142.7 or 152.7, that's a pretty solid number. So it's selective bias. He's got this bias of Sam Darnold clouded by him. So I think the only thing you can do is prove him wrong. But I digress with that. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess that's how the media works. Is they want to be right, or I guess sometimes wrong, and want to be wrong sometimes, but mostly right. Where they say a narrative and then they try to push that narrative and then they just spew things and hope it's right. And I don't know, with the Vikings, they're not a team that everybody like really talks about, unlike the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, where you're good for so long and at least a couple of years. And then the Vikings, they have a first round rookie where he didn't play his first year, as everybody knows, where Caleb Williams, he played, Bo Nix, he played, Drake May, he played, all these first round rookie quarterbacks, they all played. J.J. McCarthy never got talked about because he didn't play. He was injured. So now that he's officially starting, there's going to be a lot more narratives and agendas that people are going to try to push where, let's say it could go really two ways. J.J. could have a really good year, because you got all these weapons. You got a really good running game, hopefully. And then it could go bad where he just stinks. He could have a Christian Ponder type year where he could just hand it off, have a good run game. Justin Jefferson's going to still be Justin Jefferson, but something's just not going to click. Everything runs through JJ McCarthy in that quarterback position. So, like I said, there's two different agendas that people are going to try to push whatever way the pendulum swings for JJ McCarthy this season.
Yeah, and it's really funny too because like I've never seen, this is the first time I've seen a player get penalized for kicking the snot out of teams where they have to pull them out in the fourth quarter. So, like,
crazy.
You have to look. I look things like what are they doing on third down? Are they getting those first downs on those third and longs or those third shorts, those third mediums, whatever. So even on fourth down, what are they doing? JJ McCarthy last season at Michigan, fourth down had 8 throws, 7 of them were completed at an 87.5% completion percentage, 1 being a touchdown, a 214.9 passer efficiency there. Now you go to 3rd and 10 or more. So this could be like 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 30, whatever it is. 17 to 22, 77% completion, 278 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 243.4 passing efficiency, and 7 of those were on 15 or more. 2 of them were on 25 or more. So if you want to talk about a guy who got it done on 3rd and long,
on
you need
fire.
to get 3rd down. JJ was your guy. So I don't understand that whatsoever of what Colin's seeing, but it's people. We're in a world where people believe what they want to believe, and then they'll start spewing it because now he wanted Sam Darnold to work in Minnesota. He knows that situation in Minnesota works, and I think now he's afraid deep down that Darnold. Seattle's an okay situation. Geno worked there, but I don't think he's going to be on the level of what this Darnold would be from what he was in Minnesota than what he is going to be in Seattle. So I think he knows that. I just think he's trying to save any sort of face he might have left, but he just looks like a big clown on the internet right now, which he always does. So
yeah, people just like to look at back of the football card stats or baseball card, whatever you want to use.
Exactly.
So, people don't like to do deep dives, and I think deep dives do matter at points, especially proving points like this. There's points where it just doesn't matter, but yeah, JJ McCarthy, I think he'll have a pretty good year, regardless what people say or try to push. So once he does good, everybody's going to be pushing the agenda. Oh my God, JJ is awesome. He's great. He's good. He's this. He's that. So yeah, we'll see what Colin Cowherd says, middle of the season with JJ McCarthy, and I think it'll be interesting to see as fans as we go along. So
yeah, we gotta get him to talk about us on his show. We gotta spam his comments until he finally talks about us and admits he was wrong. So
do it. Admit you're wrong, Colin. Admit you're wrong.
Accountability.
Accountability. So with that said, let's move forward to the past couple days of actual training camp at TCO Performance Center. As of 2 days ago, JJ McCarthy had a 60-yard touchdown bomb. That was pretty cool to see. Outside of like highlight videos, there's really not too much to share other than that. Today or Thursday, by the time you guys see this, Metellus is dealing with some contract issues. I don't know if you saw, Drew, but he's dealing with a foot injury. Mm-hmm. Is that congruent to what Hawkinson had? What was it, last year, 2 years ago, with that ear infection?
Yeah.
Could we see a Metellus extension on the way?
I think so. I think it'll happen. And I think with a guy like Metellus, I think you kind of, I see where he's come from. Like you let Bynum walk, and I think he gets that. But he also sees himself as a more important role to the defense than Cam Bynum because he can play linebacker, slot, corner, defensive tackle,
positionless,
whatever that might be. So he could play pretty much every position out on that field. So he might be asking for that Cam Bynum money or maybe even a little more. So, and Kwesi's been very, very good at paying guys on a very, very, hindsight. You look back, you're like, how the heck did we sign this guy for this cheap? And you look at Van Ginkel, we signed him for $10 million a year originally, and then Jonathan Grenard was like, I think 22, 23 a year, and he's playing like a $30, $35 million edge rusher. And then Blake Cashman, who's getting paid, $7 million a year, he was probably getting, playing like a $12, $13 million linebacker. And the list goes on and on and on. So he's been very good at, getting those efficient dollars. And I think that's a big reason why this Vikings roster is just so deep because, when you save that money, you get the good contracts and you retain those players. That's how you get a Super Bowl winning team. And you have those deep teams like the Philadelphia Eagles did just last year or 2 years ago in the Niners with Brock Purdy under that rookie contract. So things are definitely looking up, and I think he'll still have that money. He'll still be paid on the cheap, but I think he wants to get paid like a $15 million safety or $16 million safety. Probably just maybe a little bit more than Cam Bynum, but it's probably somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think a guy like Metellus definitely deserves it, especially if he performs this year too. I know they most likely won't wait till after the season. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? But the past couple of years when he's been a positionless player, kind of playing as he has been, he's getting a lot of recognition for being that positionless player, and then also playing pretty good. I mean, I know this doesn't mean a whole ton, but in like Madden, he's like a low 80s overall player. I mean, a lot of people don't really view him as, that high of a player, but he's starting to become more well known. And I think a lot of other teams are kind of going that approach too, where they're getting their players to be more positionless. There's a couple guys I can't think of right now that their defensive coordinators are trying to get them to play safety, corner, nickel, linebacker, all these different positions. And not everybody can do that either. Metellus is definitely one of a kind, trendsetter, whatever you want to call him too. So I think that should get done. I think it will get done. And I think once that does get done, for the Vikings, I think a lot more jerseys will be sold as well.
Yeah, so I think I will say with a guy like Metellus, though, I think you look at him, he's 27 years old, be 28 by the time, season's end. So I probably would say you're probably looking at like a 2 or 3 year deal sort of thing where, you can extend him and kind of keep him around in Minnesota for the next few years before he hits free agency again.
Yeah, for sure. I think that should happen, like I said. Speaking of that defense, Alec Lewis was obviously there as one of the Vikings beat reporters. He was reporting today too that the Brian Flores defense, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good in these first couple days of camp, and that's not a surprise. But he did say that J.J. McCarthy did struggle a little bit, which that's bound to happen. That's bound to happen. Nothing to freak out about. He just kind of said he wasn't as good as he was yesterday or the day before. Just kind of, struggling. It's a really good defense to go against. I'm not going to, discard anything from McCarthy or that defense. So I think it's good for both sides to, A, have a really good defense, B, have your quarterback struggle. You need him to struggle a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know. We can't judge it too much. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think with some of this practice stuff, I think J.J. Watt just said something like, "Oh, we're doing like training camp and OTA stats." I think it's kind of gotten to the big talking heads for the Vikings troll community, so I think that's kind of funny. But like I said, like I don't judge anything from that. A guy like J.J., I wouldn't fret if he's got a pick or whatever. He throws an ugly pick just because you look at practice. It's meant for you to get better. Okay, what can I get away with? What can't I? And and I think with the Brian Flores defense, with all these disguises and timing, like you got to get that ball out quick. It's kind of like I saw somebody use this as an example where I don't know if you're an MLB The Show player, or I know you, Dustin, of it sometimes, but for our fans that do play MLB The Show, you go and you play on like Hall of Fame or Legend, the ball's coming in super duper fast, and then you flip it onto rookie, and it just looks like this big pumpkin just coming at you. So I think that's kind of the hope, where you get those rushed timed throws and then those disguised coverages for when you do come and you do play, your average run of the mill defense, potentially by week 1, you'll have that already ready, set, and firing. So, and I think you need that for week 1 because it's going to be a divisional game, and there's a lot of talk, off-season champs for the 14th out of the last 15 years for the Bears over there. So, we'll see how things go, and just take it 1 week at a time and see if we can get that nice start like we saw last year with Darnold and maybe surprise some people.
Yeah, it's always funny to see other people struggling, like Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, whenever they throw a pick or a pick six or whatever. But When you talk about our quarterback, that's not funny, you guys. That's not funny. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
No.
But one of JJ's targets too, Justin Jefferson. You guys may or may not know him. Just one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Dealing with a little bit of a tightness in his leg. Nothing super major. They just kind of shut him down for the second half of practice today. So just something to keep an eye on. Not like I said, nothing serious, nothing major, but you don't need to go 100% right now. You can just pretty much jog through things. So I think it'll be good for Jefferson to kind of take it easy for a little bit.
Yeah, if I had to guess, it's probably just a cramp. It's really, really hot. It's the 90s, and I heard yesterday was like super duper humid inside the building. So, like I said, when it's hot like that, cramps tend to happen. It'll be a thing. Sit out a week, he'll be back out there in no time. He'll probably be out for like the night practice in front of the fans, but I would say it's probably the earliest you get back. But I don't think it'll be anything long term. And I mean, maybe they say, oh, we won't play him in preseason or whatnot, but I don't even think he played last year in the preseason, and he was just fine. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, all that. So
yeah, no, I think he could possibly even be back this Saturday for back together weekend. So with that said, I think that is pretty much all I have. Drew, if you have to add anything else, go ahead. Camp wise.
Yeah, I think just the main thing is you want to have these guys stay healthy and ready to go, and everyone's healthy by week 1. We don't want any injuries or surprise things like last year and some really bad things happening even before that. So I think just
that
everyone
we won't mention.
Yeah, just everyone stay safe and stay healthy. That's all we really are asking for.
That's for sure. Also, I do want to point out too that Saturday is sold out for tickets. For those of you that were interested, that is Back Together Weekend, the first date that fans are back for training camp. But all the rest of the days are available: July 28th, 29th, 30th, August 1st, 2nd, 4th. 6th, 7th, 11th, and then the 2 joint practices. So if you guys haven't been to a training camp practice before, the 3, or I guess 2 technically, that you should hit up for sure is the Monday night practice. Super cool. They practice in like the little stadium, I guess you can say. They have fireworks afterwards. It's a really cool night to do everything. Opens at 5 until 10 p.m. Practice starts at 7. And then the next practice that you guys should attend is they don't do this every year. The Vikings are doing joint practices with another team, and this year it is the Patriots. So I believe Drake May's coming into town, Stephon Diggs, Mike Vrabel, and yeah, the whole Patriots team is coming on over to practice with the Vikings at TCO State or TCO Performance Center. I guess TCO Stadium's right there too. But with that said, definitely hit those up if you guys haven't been to practice before. If it does work for you, super cool practices to go to. I was at the Titans a couple years ago, so that was really cool. Seeing Mike Vrabel, he'll be back. So it'll be super cool to see Diggs back at TCO, and then Drake May. So it'll be fun times.
Yep, for sure.
All right, guys, with that said, we will see you guys soon. We'll probably be on on Tuesday of this next week. We'll be on with another special guest, talking some more Vikings training camp, what we saw on Saturday and possibly Tuesday. So, yeah, we'll go from there. And, yeah, enjoy camp this weekend, guys. It'll be super fun. Stay hydrated and, yeah, Skol Vikes.